Okay, videotape? All right, call to order the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for the City of Easthampton on Tuesday, August 18th, 2015 at 6:35 approximately. We're going to take care of a few administrative items prior to, we have one member of the board who is inbound. She will be here in a moment. So, administrative products, there is a public speak time. If anyone is here to talk about anything other than the applications that are on the docket for today, you have, I will open up the floor for anyone to speak concerning them. Okay, so we'll move to the next item on the agenda, approval of the minutes of the July 14th, 2015.
I move we approve the meetings, the minutes of July 14th.
Okay. I gotta get a second?
A second.
All right. All in favor? Hi, Maggie. Well, you know, it may... I would like it if you would stay.
All right.
Second one is, are there any reports from the city officials or any other related businesses?
The decision for 26 Williston Ave was appealed last month's, the July meeting.
Okay.
So you may get requests, and please cooperate.
Okay. All right. All right, so we will move on to our first agenda item. First item on the agenda, and only item on the agenda, is Elizabeth Sennigan of 61 Brooks Avenue, Newton, Massachusetts, seeking a special permit to allow chickens on a lot under 15,000 square feet under the section 10.8 and table 5-2 accessory uses number 7C of the Easthampton zoning ordinance. Subject property is located at 7 Valley Lane and zoned R15. Ms. Sennigan, are you here?
Yes.
Okay. If you could please, we've read over your application, if you could please fill us in with what you'd like to do. You can move up front here and so you can
Be here.
Okay.
See everybody too.
All right.
So, I would like to bring, I have right now 4 hens.
4 hens.
And they're kind of aged, so that they're maybe even fewer. But anyway, that's okay, that's how I treat my hens. I don't, they live out their lives. And so I would very much like to bring them with me and to build a little coop with an enclosure over the coop so that the snow doesn't get in on them and I don't have to shovel them out. And to enjoy having hens. I'm a veterinarian, and so I love all kinds of animals, and chickens especially.
Okay.
And I sent you the measurements of places.
Yes.
And an addendum with a measurement too from 3 Valley Road.
Right.
Right.
Now I'm trying to figure out where the dimensions really all come from. So if you could maybe help us with that.
Sure.
Because I think that's going to be the one question about, you know, placement of
Right.
the coop.
Right.
If it were permitted.
Permitted, right.
And where it can actually go.
Right.
So
I, on Valley Lane, I keep calling it road, I'm sorry, that, I think on one of the things that on this mortgage loan inspection, that I sent you on the first bit, I sort of figured out based on several things. One is that on 3 Valley Road, they have an attached garage that's 12 feet from the line. And then that was my addendum, was that I sent him the end of this week, where I was informed that maybe I can take away and measure from the house, not including the attached garage. And so that gives me 35 and a half feet if you measure from the garage, from the attached house.
Okay, so the initial application you sent indicated that it was 12 feet,
That's right.
but if you don't include the garage, it would be 35 and a half
Half
feet.
feet, that's right. So then that gives me, instead of 38 feet on my property that I have to get to the 50 feet, would be 14 and a half feet.
Which means you could have a larger enclosure.
A larger, or a larger area to put an enclosure, that's right.
Yeah, it opens up the permissible zone
It
for the...
opens up that permissible zone.
Okay.
Then on condo 18, so I think I included the, I don't know what you call this kind of map, but it showed that condo 18 is the one that's the closest of all the different condo units, right? And Paula, right, and I went and got her permission to measure from condo 18 to the boundary line. And that's what this, and that was 25 feet. And then, so that means I have to be 25 feet into my property.
Correct.
And then to be 50 feet from Valley Lane, it's about 5 feet of the curb, and there's no sidewalk, thank heavens, because I'm tired of scrubbing sidewalk. So then taking 45 feet in, then I think there's a sufficient area in there to then have my little coop.
I have a question about that. Don't our regulations require that along the street it has to be 75 feet, not 50 feet?
I think if you look in the ordinance, there's a 6.88A.
That's what I'm looking
And then
at.
B. B is the one that's for chickens. A is for all farm animals.
It's, I couldn't bring my horse.
Poultry, okay. Okay, my mistake. Thank you.
Okay. This Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
There's sort of a conflict there.
Yeah.
And I was only reading A, so.
Well, welcome to our ordinance. Okay. All right, and do you have anything else that you feel would add to sway, or anything you'd like to say? And we,
I'll
Yeah.
ask a question. Since you've had these hens for a while, can you maybe tell us a little bit about the enclosure that you're currently keeping them in and how you've been managing their manure? Because that's going to be a question that
Right.
we're going to have.
So in Newton has not quite so strict rules, and I think have a little bit bigger piece of property than Newton. I actually have a winter pen and a summer pen, Alice. But it's enclosed, things are dug down in, and there's a roof over top to keep vermin and hawks, and it's like a dog pen, and it's even maybe that table size, but maybe a little bit wider, so that they can be in there, they can scratch in there, and within that is a little coop for them. And I can keep the snow from getting in so they don't get wet feet and bumble feet, I don't know if you all know, all those different things that they can get. And so again, I don't have to dig them out in the snow. As far as for the manure things, I have composting things that I put them in, and it dissolves quite quickly because sometimes I use straw, sometimes I use the pellet, the pellets that you use for the pellet stoves. If you put water on it, then it becomes a sort of sawdust thing that immediately composts, which is kind of better than even shavings, because the shavings will take the nitrogen out. And so and I've got 2 composting barrels here already. So that's how I do that. And that can all be, I think, within this and 5 feet. Now, having that different dimensions from Valley Lane, then I can definitely be 6 feet from my house too, because at 5 feet you had to be, part of the regulations was to be that.
Okay. So, is there anyone here who's looking to speak in reference to this application? Well, we will do this as orderly as we can. We're going to start at the front of the room and work our way back. Okay, and if you could please state your name and your address.
My name is Reggie Marcellet. I live at 311 East Street, Unit 14.
Okay.
And I have a petition here for all the owners.
No, not all the owners.
Well, a lot of
The ones that disagree having the chickens. And I have emails from people who are on vacation that sent emails that couldn't attend, and they have petitioned against it. And we feel that, you know, the smell would attract the animals out of the mountains there, and we feel that the smell and everything. We don't feel that it's just a proper area to have chickens. And I have all the signatures and
Okay.
emails. They're against it.
Okay. Anyone else? Yes.
I'm Kathy O'Leary, 311 East Street. I'm at Unit 17, which is right next to Paula. I am directly behind her fence.
Okay.
And my deck is 15 feet from her stockade fence. From the end of my deck to her fence, it's 15 feet of, grassy area.
Mm-hmm.
And I just am against it. I'm not against chickens, but in the proximity to where we live, it's just not practical.
Okay. Yes.
I'm Ann Torrey. I live 311 East Street, number 16, next door to her. My
Okay.
deck is the same distance from the stockade fence, and I'm opposed to having the chickens in our area.
Okay. Yes.
Hi, my name is Pixie Benoit. I live in Montana Estates. I live in Unit 11. I am from this area, which is not true for a lot of the people that live in the condo. I was born in Northampton. I've lived in all the Hamptons, as well as Montgomery and Westfield. I've always had a farm. I've always had chickens. I even, with my husband, run a farm in France where we keep chickens and sheep. I have never had an issue with odor because we take good care of our chickens. This lady is a veterinarian. She knows how to take care of chickens to make sure that there's no odors, no vermin. She will do a good job. This is the Pioneer Valley, and it's Pioneer Valley for a reason, because we are mostly rural and mostly agricultural. And if you look at East Street, there's farms on East Street. There's cows, there's horses. I'm sure some of those folks up there have chickens. There's produce. There's all kinds of farming going on East Street. And in this area since the time that I was born has always been rural and agricultural and farming. I don't see why 4 elderly chickens should cause such an uproar, particularly because this lady is a veterinarian and she knows what to do about her chickens. So I am for the chickens.
Can you state your name again? I didn't catch your name.
Pixie Benoit, Benoist. It's actually Allison, but nobody calls me that.
Thank you.
Anyone else looking to speak? Yes.
Hi, I'm Dan Egan from the City Council, and I don't represent Precinct 2, Councilor Hayes does, but I have friends that are in this area that asked if I would come down and just walk through the process, because people, when they come in front of the city board, are always a little bit apprehensive. And my only concern, in obviously you deal always with special permitting, there's nothing that says you have to issue it, obviously, but it is I just drove down there, I know my precinct much better than precinct 2, but driving by it, it's kind of a odd property in that I'm not really sure, it's listed as 7 Valley, but there's another street, like where really the front of the house sits. I'm not sure what that street is.
Sutton Place.
Sutton Place. So I guess going to your regulations, I know you're supposed to be 50 feet from the frontage. Is the frontage, and I know you have the maps there, is the frontage on Valley Lane, because that's actually the side of the house, I believe.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
But it's 50 feet from, it's more than 50 feet from Sutton Place also, so there's no problem with Sutton Place.
Is there a door coming
Can
down?
keep it one at a
It
time.
has to
We have
be.
one
Okay,
person
okay.
there, please.
Yes.
Excuse me.
If you want to have conversations with each other, please take them in the hall. Otherwise, we need to just
Yeah.
do one at a time. Otherwise, we can't keep the
Yeah.
record straight.
The proposed enclosure for the hens will be about 100 feet from Sutton Place. It has to be 50,
Minimum of it.
minimum of 50. So it's 100 feet from Sutton Place, 50 from Valley Lane.
Okay. No, again, I don't necessarily dispute that. I'm just saying I'm not sure how the house is. I thought it was the frontage, and that's why I
No.
was just saying where the frontage is. Is it any?
And-
Yeah,
line?
this is a corner lot, so it has
Right.
2 street lines.
Okay.
Yeah, there's rules on how to
And they're both fronts.
read when it's a corner lot.
Right, that's
Yeah.
why obviously.
And
you have
that's,
to-
they have to be, then both streets become frontage, for lack of a better term.
And then it has to be 50 feet from any residence or structure, and what is a residence?
Dwelling unit.
Dwelling unit. So what is a dwelling unit?
Some place that somebody lives. It's not a shed or a garage.
Right.
And there's a definition of dwelling unit.
That's what I was wondering what it is.
Yeah, and we will, let me look that up right now so everyone knows. A dwelling, a private or publicly owned permanent structure containing a dwelling unit or dwelling units. Hotels, lodging houses, hospitals, membership clubs, or dormitories shall not be considered dwellings.
So is a attached garage, I believe 3 is an attached garage. Is that part of the dwelling unit?
Well,
I guess that's, again, these are your definition, not your
I think
definition.
that's
The
for
ordinance definition.
I think that's for the ZBA to decide whether that, either way, based on the dimensions, she has enough room to keep her 4 hens on her property, even if the board decides the garage is dwelling unit. The plan we
Okay,
have.
so I just heard her say, given, again, it seemed very nice and gave nice dimensions. I would say it's in the plan. That's why I'm just asking the question. I'm not trying to be,
No, I think the ZBA will make the determination whether the garage is dwelling or not.
Okay. And you also can set any, by special permit, any other conditions?
yes.
Yes.
And is administered by the Board of Health?
Yes.
Yes.
So once you make a decision, the Board of Health actually, do they actually come out before or once,
Jackie will go out, and she also has to approve the setup and talk to the owner, and then she also is available for enforcement, so that if there's an issue later on down the line, this is actually one of the few areas where there is actually like a mechanism for enforcement. So if there is a problem, she has the authority to require the owner to take steps to remediate or, to pull permission from the chicken. So, and if you haven't met our health agent, Jackie, she's really great, she's really thorough. Yeah, no, go ahead.
And then my final question, and I don't know how it says, because it's hard to look into your property, because you obviously have a 8-foot fence there, and the other side has a fence too. But it looks like the house runs, and the concern of the residents, mine was the 55 and over condos, and it looks like the house runs all the way back to the corner. I mean, how much of it goes back? I can't really see how far it goes back. So where was
So
the
this is
nearest?
that valley. So that's like unit 18 and that's 17 to the Fairmont, right? In the house.
Thank you very much. That's all I really have.
We're satisfied with No, it's like that, wanting to see
And you
the.
bring in the rooster?
Yeah.
The rest.
Yeah.
The rest of the story is the following.
Or whenever.
All right, is there anyone else here to discuss or have input pertaining to this application? Oh,
I just had a couple of questions.
Can you
So
state
you
can you
bring
state
in,
your name?
oh, sorry, Jennifer, last name Orzolek, Orzolek. I'm at 5 Sutton. Can I ask her questions directly, or should I ask you?
we prefer that the questions be asked to us, but in essence, you are asking her.
Okay,
She-
I want to not address her.
Correct.
I just, you talk about bringing 4 hens. I don't know much about chickens or hens. I'm not an animal person. I wanted to know how long those live, and if they happen to die, if you're bringing more hens after that and more keep going.
I can have only up to 6, because that's the regulations. And I will probably, if these die, get another couple of hens, just because I like to have them around for the eggs and just for the company. And but there are no roosters,
Okay.
okay? And that you usually get hens of different breeds, because I like the different breeds, and some of the ancient ancient breeds and things like that, so they're usually very tame. I'm not for guinea hens. It can be, I don't know if you all know those, that can be, they eat ticks, so they're awfully nice for that, but they make a lot of noise, and I'm not for that at all.
Okay. And then just, obviously, as everybody else is concerned, just about the smell and the noises, we find animals in our yard, feral cat, I guess is what you call
Barn
them,
cats.
eating other animals.
Yeah.
So I'm concerned that this is gonna bring in more animals. I have a 3-year-old daughter, and, she might be out there and these other animals are running around. I don't want there to be more of an attraction to come into my yard of other animals.
Well, one thing nice about taking care of hens, that at night they're quiet, because they can't see at night anyway, so you have to be very careful so that nothing can get into them. And so I build these pens so that I have wire that goes down a foot, so things can't dig up underneath, and have the top so that hawks can't get them, because I've had a hawk get one a few years ago. I've had them for about 12 years in Newton, and I've worked with, I know the public health department people, and they come and inspect all the time there, and I've been one of the town veterinarians there too, but still, I got the permit and everything before I even brought in hens there, because I just wanted everything to be done according to how that town worked. Okay. And, I think that sometimes they even take in the food at night, just so that something's not smelling the food and coming in, and I make sure that the food's not against, like, there's a wire that's not against the outside wire, but it's on the inside where the hens are, so a raccoon can't stick its hands through to get food and everything. And I don't have bird feeders for the same reason, because I just don't want to attract things that way too.
I just have, I don't.
Yeah, no.
I'll say, does she plan on gonna be living at the property?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
We just noticed that there's been no movement into the house. We didn't know if it was a rental or you were using it for some other purpose.
No,
Okay.
I'm planning to move. I'm trying to get my house in Newton set up to be sold. And
Okay, that was.
and so I've got a lot of things in there now.
Okay.
And my sister lives up this way too, so.
Just to clarify, in your application, you say that you have 5 hens, and tonight you're saying you have 4 hens.
One died.
One, okay. Just, I apologize.
I have
for-
one had kidney cancer, another one's probably showing the symptoms of it, the way, I don't know if you've ever had parakeets, but they often get a kidney tumor and then they can't walk. So being a veterinarian, I know how poultry is treated in the business, and it's like, I want the 4 to 6 hens or whatever I have are treated to have a nice life, and the layers and the boilers, sometimes you feel a little sorry for them.
Okay.
Are we back to us?
We're back to us.
Okay.
Should we just close out the public hearing? or
Yeah,
not
at this
yet?
point, we're going to close the public hearing. We may ask people for questions at a later point. At that point, no new evidence may be presented, only specific to the question that we've asked. Okay, and that's very important, and everyone understands that. Okay, so if you haven't said your piece now, this is it.
Anybody want
Does anybody have anything else they'd like to say?
I have another question.
Sure.
Okay, her name's Reggie Marsley. What's gonna stop the coyotes from getting in there and the bears? And there's nothing gonna stop them from going in. I see coyotes every
And we do
morning.
have-
And there's no chickens yet.
Yeah,
So I can't say
Okay, well-
that having chickens, because I can tell you, I don't have chickens in my yard.
yeah.
And I have bear, and I have coyote, and I have coy dogs, and I have, all kinds of things.
Yeah.
That's fact of living where we live.
Yeah.
And the inhabitants of the city who were here first, other than the Indians, they kind of have, a little survival of the fittest thing going on.
But to show, you know,
Well, I think, if the coyotes get into the enclosure, there won't be any chickens anymore. So I think she's got a vested interest probably in building a pretty secure coop.
Yeah.
but it's attracting animals in our community that has children.
But the animals you pointed out are already there without the chickens.
There.
Yeah.
I don't have chickens and I have bear and I
Well,
have
it's
fox.
an attraction for the wild animals.
Okay. Yes.
I don't have chickens either, Mr. How about rodents? I know you sound like you do a good job with the cleanup. Does it draw rodents? Or, again, I'm just thinking of like when you said bird, it would spur me on as bird feeders. And I know a lot of people that have bird feeders
Yeah, that
tend to
attract
get field
rodents.
mice or voles or whatever. And I didn't know if chickens do the same thing, draw or no.
But that's why I keep things clean and pick up.
So it's all on the
And I
meat.
have
Chickens will also
loose
eat
pellets rather than loose granular stuff, so that they just eating those pellets and it's not getting
So it's
around.
all on the meat
That's right,
instead.
that's right.
Thank you.
All right, so we will close the public hearing, or the public portion of the hearing at this point, and we will now begin our deliberation.
I'll say something, as I've said at our other meetings about chickens, based on my personal experience, I don't have a problem with 6 chickens. I don't think they create a nuisance at all. I have a dog who barks occasionally. I have neighbors that have 2 dogs. They poop in the yard, they bark. They're much noisier than chickens. Hens are very quiet. I actually used to regularly feed the birds, so I have chipmunks and mice in my yard until I had the bear and her 3 cubs show up this spring when I took my feeder down. That's just the environment we live in. And I think I don't have a problem with anybody having 6 hens. I think they're quiet. They, if they're maintained properly, the same as someone who doesn't clean up their yard after their dog. And I have neighbors that don't clean up their yard after their dog. And there's nothing we can do about that. But the health department actually inspects the chickens. So I think they're better than having the neighbor with the dog that doesn't clean up after themselves. Because there's nobody to inspect that. And they are quiet. You probably won't even know they're there.
All right. Maggie?
I know in one of the last ones of these that we did, we limited to less than 6, sort of as a, in recognition that these lots are a little bit smaller than the size of lot where you can by right have 6. And I just think that might be something that we should, consider again here.
Okay. Tony, do you have anything to say?
No.
No? Questions have been answered or
Yeah.
otherwise you feel appropriate. Okay. Jared?
I think it's an important point that a lot of people have brought up that the Board of Health is tasked with enforcing the provisions of the zoning code. So, other than that, I think the setbacks seem to be, the measurements seem to be enough. I don't have any other questions or concerns.
Okay. I guess my question or concern is in reference to the addendum that she added to whether the garage is considered part of the dwelling. And in my opinion, and this is, I'm at this point, I am saying that if the garage is attached to the structure, it is included as part of the dwelling.
I would agree with you, as much as...
It's...
How about setbacks? When someone takes out a building permit to build a new house,
Correct.
there are setbacks for a house. If they have an attached garage, those setbacks apply to the attached garage.
Exactly.
So that means it's part of
Wouldn't
the
they-
dwelling.
Yeah, but wouldn't they also apply if it was a shed?
Pardon me?
Like, I mean, you can't put like a shed in the setbacks either.
There are different setbacks for shed.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Right.
Right. But if
yeah.
the-
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree.
The core structure,
I'm just-
the dwelling is part of the
Yeah.
core structure.
I agree that if
the
it's
garage.
not, I mean, I agree for the same reason.
Okay,
So
and
it's-
I wanted to put that out there because that is, and I understand that, one of the concerns that's been made is that there are decks that are closer to the rear yard setback of 25 feet. They are approximately 15 feet from the side, from the rear yard in the condominiums. But that is how they were put in there. And that the deck is not considered part, is the deck then considered part of the dwelling?
I think there are separate setbacks for decks.
Okay, so if we can find separate setbacks for decks?
I don't think a deck is considered part of the dwelling.
Okay, because I looked up under dwelling, it does not indicate any part of a deck, and under deck, there's no, under definition, and I just...
Well, I would say a deck wouldn't be a dwelling because it doesn't have a roof. I mean, a dwelling would have to be a building. If it was an enclosed...
Well, I think what John's point more is that a garage isn't a dwelling either, but we're saying that it's part of a dwelling if it's attached, and if the deck is attached, is that... an
I would say
extension
a
of
screened-in patio with a roof would be part of the dwelling, but not a deck because it's open air.
Okay. I don't know. I'm asking because I'm trying to make sure that we cover all of our bases here.
I would never have considered a deck. It's like a patio.
It's like sitting in your yard.
I don't know if there are rules for decks. There's no definition.
There's no definition for deck.
I don't suspect that the warning is...
I already looked at it. Permitted by use, that's not going to be in that section. Here we go.
Okay, decks are treated... Well, no, that's an open terrace. Would an open terrace be a deck?
What the heck is an open terrace? I've never even heard.
Well, it's in our regulations. Open terrace or steps or stoop,
Oh,
under 4 feet in height, up to 1/2 the required yard setback. So it's treated differently than a dwelling,
Okay.
if a deck is an open terrace.
like it can be closer to the road.
Yeah, it doesn't have to
Yeah.
comply with the building setbacks. So I would say
And
it's...
that's, can you read it again?
It says, open terrace or steps or stoop, under 4 feet in height, up to, they're talking about projections into
Right.
required yard,
Yeah.
up to 1/2 the required yard setback.
Right.
And that's in section 6.8.
Right.
It seems like the roof might be the deciding factor there.
I've always thought of a roof as making it a building or a dwelling.
That would seem to support you on that.
What's that?
I said that definition would seem to, I mean, like stoop, steps,
Right.
terrace, all scream no roof to me.
Yeah, but it does not specifically say a deck. So, if we look at that as being the case, then the map that was originally presented in the application shows 25 feet from the rear of the condominiums to the property line and 25 feet from there to a proposed enclosure, which would be the 50 feet from that structure, that dwelling. Let me use the correct terminology. Going southeast on Valley Lane with 12 feet from the garage to the property line and another 38 feet indicated from there to the proposed enclosure, being 50 feet. We have 5 feet from the street to the property line and 45 feet there from the street to the stockade fence, and then from there to that we may have a problem with, because it comes from the property line, or is it from the street?
It says street line.
It says street line. Okay, so it's, even though the property may be in 5 feet, the street line is still where the street is?
The street line.
That goes back to section 2 again. It says front line, street line.
And you have to look at 6.88B as well.
What's that?
6.88B.
A street is a way which is over 30 feet in right-of-way width, which is dedicated or devoted to public use.
And for the keeping of chickens numbering 6 or less, no roosters, for the private use of occupants only, shall be kept in an enclosure or building 50 feet or more from a street line and 50 feet or more from any dwelling other than the dwelling in which they are accessory. Ergo, the applicant. So, the indicated street line, I would consider to be the curb. So if we have 5 feet from the curb to the fence and 45 feet from the fence to the proposed enclosure, we have 50 feet that way. And then there's 5 feet from the structure, from the house to the proposed structure. I can tell you that it's a shoehorn. For lack of a better term, but it fits. Now, Maggie, you brought up a question of reducing the quantity. And yes, we've done that in the past, most recently last month, I believe.
But didn't we do that because those homeowners, they only had 4 and they only intended to have 4? Where the regulations allow 6, and
I mean, I think it was an easy restriction because they only planned it to have 4, but I think it was also recognition of the fact that, like, if you have a bigger lot, you can by right have 6, and so it's not, I mean,
By right to have 6, without question,
once you get to 15,000 feet.
15,000 feet.
Right.
And
I mean, it's definitely a larger percentage difference in number of chickens than it is percentage difference in square footage.
yes. Yeah. Tough to have, 0.2 chickens.
That's a mix up in my belly.
Yeah. So the question then is do we restrict or diminish the numbers of permitted chickens?
I don't have a problem with 6, but if everyone agrees with 4, I'll.
And we can also do 5.
Yeah.
Is there a big difference between 4, 5, or 6 chickens?
I guess the question is the, you know, when we look at the noise and the volume of compost that's created.
I mean, if you have 4 instead of 6, it's a third less.
It's going to be a third less, logically. Yes. So I'm just pointing out the obvious things here, as you can tell. So.
I mean, I agree with the concept that like our ordinance has basically created like a quasi-pet status for chickens,
Yes.
and that chickens as pets are really no more of a, you know, nuisance than dogs or cats, or and in some ways are less because of the fact that there is the enforcement for
Yeah.
Yeah.
that the health department can come. So my sense is that unless there's, you know, on the other hand, there is also has been this policy determination made that once you get below 15,000 square feet, there's a difference. And so to my mind, it just sort of makes sense that maybe we do somewhat fewer chickens in the smaller lot, because I don't, because that sort of makes sense to me as a reason for drawing that line. And it doesn't make sense to me so much that we would say oh, some people can have this kind of pet, and then other people can't have this kind of pet, and it's not so much about the load on the property of the presence of the pet, but it's some other intangible thing. I don't know, that probably doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but it just seems like there's been this policy to say yes, we recognize as a city that chickens are a special kind of pet, and as long as you've got at least 15,000 square feet, we think that it's totally safe and fine and doable as long as you follow the rules to have 6. But if you're, even just a hair under, you don't get to have any. That doesn't seem to make sense to me, but it does sort of make sense to me that if you're a hair under, we'll look at the circumstances of your situation and maybe we'll reduce the number of chickens. Or maybe we'll, use this as an opportunity to put in some other sort of condition that is outside of what Jackie Duda can do. But if it's going to be outside of what Jackie Duda can do, it's not really about the manner in which you're keeping chickens, or the health department stuff, because that's her
purview.
That's her purview. Yeah. So.
Would you like me to make a motion for 5 chickens?
Sure.
Okay. Or would you like to make the motion?
You may.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the special permit application of Elizabeth Sinnigan for 7 Valley Lane to permit 5 hens only. And off the top of your head, the special permit criteria, 10 point.
Yeah, we need findings.
Special permit, 12.
12?
12.79.
Oh, it's 12.
This application conforms with the provisions of the City of Easthampton. I think because we reduced the number to 5, we protect the city amenities and abutting properties. There is no traffic or safety issues related to hens. The applicant.
Sorry, bad joke. I apologize.
The applicant has a history of raising hens, so knows how to deal with refuse disposal, but the health department will oversee that if needed. There are no wetlands on the property. It will not impact the city's water or sewer supply. There are no issues with off-street parking or loading. There are no landscaping issues. It complies with setbacks. If there's any pollution, that would be dealt with by the health department. And again, I don't believe it'll be a nuisance. I don't believe 5 hens would be, but we have the health department to deal with that. That's it.
Okay. And a second on the motion.
I'll second it.
All right. Jamie, did you get all of that? Before we go any further, I just want to make sure everybody.
Every comma.
More or less. I can go back to the text.
All right, go to the videotape. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. The decision will be, Jamie's going to work with me and we're going to write it all up, and we have by the end of next week to have it stamped, at which point there is a 20-day appeal period where once the decision has been made, finalized, the appeal period begins once it's been stamped by the city clerk. After which point, provided there were no appeals, then there is the application and the approval is then in full effect. All right. We thank you all for coming in and hearing what everyone had to say, and we wish you all a very good evening. We'll wait till the room is clear here for a
There's one agent or 3-person She has a person.
You haven't adjourned yet, right?
We have not adjourned.
If you're having private conversations, the meeting's still continuing.
She is very good. Jackie's doesn't. But she has a big role.
If you guys could take your comment, we're still
I thought
actually.
you were.
No, we're not adjourned. We just.
Oh, you said this was the only agenda item.
It was. We still have other. We
It's the
have
only
I'll meet you
agenda.
outside.
administrative items to take care of.
I'm going with Kathy.
Okay, I'll-
You come, sorry, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, people.
Thank you.
Lively.
Cars in the front.
Okay.
We're going this way.
Our next meeting is scheduled for the second Tuesday of the month.
Wait, second, third.
Second Thursday, I'm sorry. I'm confused because today's Tuesday.
Tonight, not with Saturday.
Yes. So our next meeting will be scheduled for September 10th at 6:30 p.m., provided there is an application. The submission deadline is Thursday, August 20th at noon.
So there's been nothing to my knowledge that's come in. Kind of the Habitat for Humanity East Street has looking for another determination of insubstantial change. I don't know when they will submit it.
Okay.
And typically it's just a 20-day, once they submit, it's 20 days that the board has to make that determination. So if there's no regular meeting in September, if it's okay, we may have to schedule something sort of just a week out or something like that.
Okay. All right.
Oh, like if they submit but not by the 20th.
Right, because they
Right,
have a
'cause they have a
different
shorter time,
comprehensive permit law is different
Yep.
than the city's ordinance.
I got it.
All right. And my other question is, when is the city council meeting pertaining to the zoning ordinance?
So the home occupation ordinance was dealt with, well, it was sent to council, council sent it to the ordinance subcommittee, and ordinance subcommittee sent it to the planning board. They had a joint hearing on it 3 weeks ago, I believe on August 4th.
Okay.
They continued it to the 25th, which is next Tuesday at 6 p.m., where they will take a look at the home occupation ordinance again. They had some changes to it. They wanted to see their proposal in a new document. And in addition to that, there's also a zoning map update that's also a public hearing.
Does it appear they will adopt the recommendation that knocks out a lot of potential applicants to the zoning board of appeals that they can do their home occupations by right?
It looks to be that the things that they were concerned with were, so there were some questions about like, explosive or dangerous uses, hazardous uses, as to whether or not those should be allowed.
All the fun out of life.
Yes, whether or not those should be allowed at all, or whether or not they should be, that just triggers the zoning board of appeal review. But if there's no impact to neighborhood, it looks like they are
Good.
going forward with the proposal as submitted, that two-tier system.
Okay.
Good.
And again, if you guys want to come to the hearing, it's a week from today, 6 o'clock.
6
Here. Or
Okay.
maybe it might be upstairs, depending on how many people show up.
We'll see. All right. Does anyone else have any other?
I'm just, do we have any more information about the appeal?
I just know that it was appealed and that they asked for copies of the minutes and decision and application, all the rest of that stuff. So I just forwarded them all of that.
Okay.
And it's in housing court, but that's all I know.
How long do appeals usually take?
This would be the first time that I've
Oh,
worked
really?
with the committee that there's been an appeal, so.
I can tell you the last appeal that I'm aware of, which I was on the board that got to hear the appealed side, took a year or two. Yes. It's a delay of game for the applicant, unfortunately. But, that's really what happens.
So they go to housing court?
Yes.
Well, yeah, so I mean, the appeals can go to housing court, superior court, or land court.
And they chose housing
They
court.
chose housing court. I mean, and it's obviously the attorney who's filing it.
Right.
It's choice as to
Yes,
where it goes, so.
All right.
Let's hope the judge knows something about chickens.
And the judges in housing court are great for housing.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
That's true. All right. Any other questions, concerns? All right. Motion for adjournment?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Oh,